everyone for coming. My name is Brietta Clark. It says introduce yourself, right? Brietta Clark. I'm the Associate Dean for Faculty. Forget to do that sometimes. And I want to welcome everybody to this event. This is the kickoff event for all of our Centennial celebrations. I'm really privileged to be able to be a part of this event because we're bringing our whole community together. So thank you for coming. I want to start with an acknowledgement to Brian Kavitek. Yes. At this point, we should all know him because he practically works here. He is chair of the board. He's been chair of the board of directors of the law school, a trustee of the university and the law school. He's supported our students in every endeavor. He's just an advocate and warrior trying to help the school, the deans, the leadership, our students in whatever we need. And I've actually told the dean I'm a little worried that we may be in trouble with labor violations because we don't pay him, we make him pay us for the privilege of working so hard for us. So thank you very much for this. So let's get right to it. I'm going to introduce all of our living deans, former deans, present deans.
Assume facts, not
This is very exciting. So I'm going to start with introducing Judge Fred Lauer. So he's an alumnus of both the university and the law school. He was dean during two periods, from 1973 to 79, and then 1990 to 1991. And I'm not sure how many people know this, but he literally made the school what it is today. Like literally, where you're walking and sitting, because he was the person who oversaw the design and construction of our campus. And that may be why he just can't stay away. I mean, he is absolutely, totally invested in the school and comes back regularly to do all sorts of things to help us in all capacities, including as a parent, I understand, to see your daughter graduate from the law school. So if we could just give a round of applause. Dean David Burcham. So Dave is an alumnus of the law school. He was dean from 2000 to 2008, then an LMU provost, executive vice president, and then the LMU president from 2010 to 2015. So I'm quite partial to Dave because while Judge Lauer may have literally made the school, Dave made my career because he hired me. Seriously though, Dave really has been one of our transformative leaders for the school in terms of how he shaped the faculty, the academic programming, and really building relationships, strengthening relationships with alumni. And I think this is Cindy reminded me that he even brought a certain kind of flair to the Dean Suite. He's been known for his hair. No, you still got it. You still got it. And I actually still remember the moment of panic that I think I felt, and a lot of colleagues felt, when we learned that Dave was getting snapped up by the university to go there as a provost. And, you know, just because of how amazing he's been and what a leader and amazing colleague. So we're all very nervous about what that would mean. But my panic subsided very soon once I found out who our next dean would be. But first, I'd like to give a round of applause for... So Dave was followed by Victor.
Also known for his hair.
So Victor was actually the associate dean for faculty when Dave hired me. So that's why I had no panic once I knew Victor was taking over. I worked very closely with him. Victor's been an incredible mentor to me, nurtured me, and both Victor and Dave together gave me, and Cindy, gave both of us really important leadership opportunities within the school. So having been such a beloved professor and colleague to all of us, it was natural that Victor would have taken over as dean next. But what may have surprised him was exactly kind of what was in store for him. So he was dean from 2008 to 2015. And Victor really took the reins at a time when there was a lot of tumultuous change, scary change in legal academia. He got us through it. He helped us weather the storm and emerge even stronger on the other end. And for that, we owe a deep debt of gratitude. Dean Hayden was dean from 2015 to 2016. Just a year, but a very important year. So Paul was called to service, both literally and figuratively, right, for that time, to help usher us through a really critical period of transition. And also, as another beloved and respected colleague, it was a natural choice. I mean, he had already been in a leadership role for him to assume and help us through that transition. You know, even though he assumed this and took it on as an interim dean and knew he was only going to be doing this for a year, he didn't act like an interim dean. I mean, he took it incredibly seriously. He dove into it. He showed commitment and energy, and exactly what you would hope of somebody who was in it for the long haul and so invested in the school. He also used the opportunity to nurture a relationship with Westchester's then new president, Tim Snyder. And that's a critical foundation that he helped lay for us that's so important to who we are today. And so, again, I want to... And finally, last but not least, my boss, Michael, became dean in 2016. So, true story, not long after I got to know Michael, I told one of my good friends and colleagues, you may or may not remember, Professor Natapov, I said, he's going to be a dean with him. And if we're lucky, he'll be our dean. And he's proving me right, not just by being a dean, but by how he conducts himself every day and what he brings to this job. He takes nothing for granted, nothing. He is so appreciative of all of kind of what the former deans have done before him, his leadership team, staff, what everybody's put in and built. He is grateful for, and he continues to nurture and build upon that. But he also has an incredibly bold and exciting vision for the future. He wants to take us forward, propel us forward, and that's important. He's also taken our relationship with Westchester in new directions, which is an important part of that growth. And I will say, you know, administrative work is hard. I don't have to tell many of you here that. And sometimes they're a lot harder than others, quite frankly. But what I can say honestly is that Michael brings joy to this job every day. He creates a supportive space for us every day. And I am thrilled to be able to call him a dear friend before even I think of him as a boss. So he does make me earn my keep. So let's get to the fireside chat. Let's talk to our deans and hear from them. And the first question, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you, Judge Lauer. Why did you want to become a dean?
Why?
Twice, in fact. Yeah?
It was a momentary fuzziness. Because somebody needed to do something. We had 1,300 students in the building next door that was built for 550. And there was a great surge in 1967-68 because people decided they wanted to be lawyers because there was a lot of interest in social justice and equality. Women were becoming very interested in law school. And we had all the students. We were bringing in roughly 300 in the day program and 100 in the evening. And nothing was really happening to get it going. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so I put my name in, and next thing I knew, that moment of busyness turned into a reality. And there were a number of things that were going on. One was we were increasing the faculty. A lot of the instruction had gone with adjuncts and not very many full-time faculty. So in the 70s, from 70 to 79, we brought in 18 new full-time faculty members. 7 of them before I became dean, and then 8 and 11 after that. So that became one of the issues. Where are you going to put all of these faculty members? And it became apparent that one of the pressing needs, because it would be a very long-term need, was a building program. We've got to do something. Are we going to stay on this site? Answer, yes. Are we going to expand this site by purchasing adjacent land? Yes. So what that ultimately led to was a committee to study a plan to add structure to this campus and have it here permanently. And I thought, well, I think I can cope with that. So I will go ahead and do it.
Dave, Yvette?
I'll start with a gross stereotype, which nonetheless is largely true. Anybody who really, really, really wants to be dean, you shouldn't hire. It is a service. These three have heard me say that many times. It is a service. You don't do it for stock options, and you don't do it for a salary. You certainly don't do it for fame. I used to say that you're on a good day, you're first among equals with your faculty, but I quickly followed it up by saying I didn't have a whole lot of good days under that definition. And so it's not. And so I wanted it. Actually, Victor and the late wonderful man, human being, many of you remember Dave Leonard, came to my office one day when I was associate dean and encouraged me to think about it. And so I did. I thought about it and decided at some point I would if there was sufficient support amongst my faculty colleagues, I would do it. But the other truism is for every hard decision you make a set of temporary friends, another set of permanent enemies. And after a while, so it's a hard job, and anybody that does it for a number of years, like Fred did, like everybody has, that you have to keep talking to yourself. Fred gave me my first year dean gave me an expression that he referred to as cumulative toxicity. That each year you have to be careful because you can get jaundiced and cynical, and so. With dealing with whomever, whether it's faculty or disgruntled students or disgruntled alums or whatever it is, you spend a lot of your time problem solving. And it turns out that everybody on this stage was very good at that, but it's not the kind of thing where you say, I really, really want to do that. It's to decide you love the institution, and you love the students, and you love our mission, and you want to contribute in any way you can.
Victor, I see you nodding.
I was mad for power. Raw, understood. You have to understand the circumstances under which I became dean. Dave walked into my office on the third floor here one day and said, the president of the university has asked me to go be provost, and he wants you to be the acting dean. So I said, okay. But sometime later, I told Dave when he was in that provost position, I am not going to be candidate for dean. I'm not running for deanship. He subsequently told me he knew that was not true, but no. So during the course of the next few months, it was apparent, we were in this terrible global recession. Legal education, the legal profession was being decimated by that recession. And we were in a state of crisis. And so, trying to work my way through it, I thought, well, I can do this, I can handle this. And I decided, okay, that it would be a good thing for the school, I can do it, so let's see if the faculty and the president want it. So that's why I changed my mind.
So I too came into my 1 year as dean, and when something happened, if you will, I was Victor's associate dean for faculty, the same job that Bree held under me and now holds, and the aforementioned crisis situation that we were in for years, where Victor was the leader. I was there in key meetings, etc., for 2 years. And I think, without putting words in Victor's mouth, I think Victor probably would have planned certainly he would have planned not to have a deanship with all that going on, but it was going on and on with, the end sort of not in sight, but we reached a point under Victor's leadership where, the ship had stabilized, we could see the end of the storm, and I think Victor felt like he, if it was a good time to step back into teaching, which he's great at and loves, this would be a good time to do it. So I too had people come to me in the dean's office and say, had I ever thought about stepping in just as interim dean between deans so that Victor could actually leave and we could find a new dean, which we did. And I think, honestly, I had become associate dean because I wanted to do it. I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted a little change of pace. I thought I'd be good at that. I had primarily selfish reasons, well, knowing that was a bit of service. But when this interim dean possibility came up, and David Burcham is the one who offered me the job ultimately, David and I interviewed at Westchester in his office as the president, and he made it clear, and I believe I made it clear to him, and we were longtime friends, all of us, that this was about service. And I said, yes, from my perspective too, this is about service. I believe I can do the job. I believe I know enough to pick the ball up and not drop it, and just keep us on the path and help develop the relationship with Westchester. Of course, what happened to me was, right after I said yes, David Burcham announced he was leaving the presidency. So that was my challenge, was working with new President Snyder, who none of us knew at all. But that's why I became dean again. I really honestly wanted to be of service.
So basically, it's Dave's fault that Victor's dean, it's Victor's fault that you're dean. Okay, I'm just trying to get it to blades to go around.
Yes.
It's a total Ponzi scheme. I'll answer the question, but first I just wanted to briefly say, as the person in this chair now, it's really wonderful, and I realize I owe kind of something personally and professionally to all of my predecessors that I'm on stage with, and I'll just kind of take a moment and run through. Paul and I were associate deans together, so we kind of had that experience of, helping in that capacity and working on the same team, and that was really a true delight for me to get to work with Paul in that capacity and learn from him. Institutionally, it can't be stressed enough, we have all benefited from the relationships that Paul built at Westchester during his year. He's true, he came in, he was the first to work with a new president that had never had a law school in his portfolio, a law school that is 13 miles away from the main campus. And we were kind of at a vulnerable moment, and I was so much the beneficiary of the relationships that Paul established, not just with President Snyder, but with everyone in the university community, and it created a set of tailwinds that just made it much easier for me to come in and kind of pick up where he left off. But that was really a service that he played for the entire community. Victor was the one that asked me to be an associate dean, and that wasn't necessarily a natural or even smart or rational move. But I'll always be grateful to Victor for doing that and having the faith in me to serve in that role. I also had the real honor of sitting in the office next to Victor for a lot of years, and as other people said, a lot of those were hard years. And I saw someone that served without ego. And I saw someone that woke up every morning and tried to make the school better and judged himself every night by how he did that day. And that was just incredibly inspirational. So I learned a lot from that as a person. And to think about the type of leader that I would want to be. Also, it can't be stressed enough that if Victor can work with the university to invest in us in a critical period, it's hard to overstate how bad that is. At the end of the day, running a law school as a business matter is a fairly simple business. We sell legal tuition and we use it to run the place. And when 40 to 50% of the people that are buying your product go away overnight, you don't have a lot of options. And for Victor to be able to move quickly and effectively with the university to get them to invest in us, truly not just saved the law school, but gave us an opportunity to grow and thrive. And if that doesn't happen, it's a very different law school right now. And Victor doesn't take nearly enough credit. Dave is the one that helped guide that decision on the other end and believed in the law school and really was there at a critical moment in the life of the law school. And Dave took a lot of bullets for that. And Dave doesn't talk about those bullets, but that was not necessarily an easy decision for Dave to make. I think it was the right one, but that, in the history of the law school, Dave being there was, as consequential as anything. Personally, like Bree, Dave hired me. I remember sitting at the table in the office that I hold now, same table. My wife came and Dave made the offer, and it was, a really important moment in my life. I wasn't here long enough when Dave was dean. I think we overlapped by a couple of years. But when I was thinking about doing this job, one of the first things I did was go and sit in Dave's office and talk to him and ask really hard questions. Like, I have young kids. I don't know if this is for me. Is this something I can do? And Dave has just always been a figure and someone who I now try to meet with as much as possible. Fred, apart from professionally, we all owe Fred for the space that we're in. I have a unique Fred story that some of you have probably heard, but maybe not all of you have. Fred was literally the reason that my father was there when I was born. I'm not joking, let me explain. So, in 1973, my father was a third-year evening student here at Loyola Law School. My mom was pregnant with me. My dad wanted to be there when I was born. He made an appointment with then Dean Lauer. Probably the only time he was ever in the dean's office. Went in, knocked on the door, nervously met with Dean Lauer. My dad said, Dean Lauer, my wife's pregnant, there's this new Lamaze thing that we've been doing. I'd actually like to be in the room when my child is born, we can take his classes. I might need to reschedule some exams, that type of thing we can do. And hear my dad tell it, Fred Lauer said, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure we can work that out. So literally because of Fred, my father was there when I was born.
You said born, right?
Yeah, born. In terms of why I wanted the job, like Dave said, no rational person would really kind of plot to desire this. I did not want to be a dean. I was very interested in being the dean of this law school. And I think it kind of, when I met with Dave, and he told me the same thing he told a number of us, which is you really have to have a service mentality. And I like that. I like being of service. I like being pushed out of my comfort zone. I like getting to experience new things. I like a certain amount of chaos. And I think I love being out of my comfort zone. It fulfills me. And this job gives you all of that and more, but to get to do it in service of an institution that you truly love is a great pleasure.
Okay, so service is clearly a theme here in terms of why you want to become dean, and you've also mentioned a number of challenges, right, that you had to face.
So I want to take us to a positive place for a moment, one of the more positive parts of the job. Can you talk about one of the meaningful interactions? Something that an interaction you had, something you got to do or help along that made you feel good, helped feed that part of yourself, that reminded you through the hard times that you were performing an important service. And let's mix it up a little bit. Let's start with Victor.
Sure. Well, there's something, first of all, you need to know about my background. I was a professor here for 24 years before I became the dean. And I thought I knew the law school. Certainly I knew my colleagues, I knew the students, I knew the staff, not that many, but, my secretary and a few people in the Burns building. When I became the dean, that is when I really learned what Loyola Law School was. First of all, I got to work with, know the entire staff. And I got to work with and know the alums. And so as far for the staff, it was the people behind the scenes, not in the classroom, not getting the glory, who made it work. And we've talked about how tough the years were economically for the law school when I was the dean. The staff, the staff paid a price during those years. It was a tough time. Everyone was nervous about their jobs, but everyone showed up, did their jobs, helped get us through. The alumni, in addition to supporting the school, I learned, in addition to alum supporting the school, I learned what these kids who walk through these buildings do when they leave us. And it's amazing stuff. If you ever get down on yourself when you're sitting at your job, sitting at your desk, you ought to know what you are a part of, what our grads are doing out there. It's inspiring. They're making the world a better place. They're making LA a more fair, just place. They're achieving things that you all should be proud of because you all played a role in helping them get to where they are. So I always thought when I was the dean, when anybody asked me, what is the business of Loyola Law School? What do we do? And when you boil it down, it comes down to this. We help these young people get to where they want to be in life. And when you're the dean, you get to see where that is, and it's really quite a place.
Judge Lauer, what about you? Is there a particular interaction that you had with some member of the community in your time as dean that still sits with you, resonates with you?
We didn't have a board of visitors. Gary Ullman, who had some notoriety in connection with a certain trial several years ago, knew Matt Byrne, the federal judge, and he offered, he's not an alumnus, his father, the other judge, was an alum, but he came and he said, what you really need, I think, is a board of visitors. And a board of visitors made up of members of the legal community, the business community, who can go out and tell the really good things that are going on here at Loyola Law School. And so that was the beginning of the board of visitors that played such an important part. At the same time, speaking about alums, one of the questions earlier was, is there a single alum who really made a big difference? And I would not be fair if I tried to find a single alum, because one of the things was we didn't have an alumni organization that really meant anything. Back in those days, in Father Donovan days, at the State Bar Convention, there would be what was called a symposium. Loyola alumni, which essentially, as Father Donovan defined it, was a period of time where there was some discussion and drinks. And that was it. And so what I decided we really need to organize the alumni. And so I asked for some information about clubs of alumni, geographic locations. Maybe what we could do is start alumni organizations in these areas. The alumni jumped into it and said, yes, they would invite those programs at their home or set up with a restaurant. And so over time, we were able to establish 15 of these alumni associations over the country, the whole country. And also, we got the idea of class reunions, bringing members of a class together after graduation. And that, we still have those. And when you are alums, I hope that you will take advantage of those reunions because it's really a very special time.
Dave, what about you?
I'll twist the question just a minute, or just a tad.
Just like a lawyer.
No, it's a meaningful interaction with the student. I didn't know it was as meaningful as it turned out to be. As professors, we don't know frequently the impact we have on our students. It's very rare, not unheard of, but very rare to hear much from them 10, 20 years after they're gone. And as dean, we had, fortunately, not very many cases involving discipline, but there was one where a first-year student had plagiarized part of a writing assignment. I see some of my favorite writing people out here in the crowd. He appealed his year's suspension to me, and I upheld it, and it was an unpleasant meeting, totally unpleasant. And this would have been somewhere in the year 2001 or 2002. A year or two ago, I hadn't heard from him, but I couldn't remember his name if you asked me. A year or two ago, I get a 2-page, single-spaced letter from this person saying how that was the most meaningful event that happened in his law school career. That he said he actually had plagiarized, he denied it, that we treated him fairly and justly, and we should know that he was a candidate for the state bar judge, judging discipline cases. And I thought, at first I wasn't sure it wasn't a put on her, but it made me realize at the time, we have no idea what our words, our actions, what effect they have on our students and staff and faculty. And every now and then you're reminded that a lot of it is pretty profound, and it's a great privilege to be involved in the noble profession of education.
Well, I had so many positive interactions when I was dean. I want to echo something Victor said. When you're a professor, you really don't interact with the complete staff the way you do when you're the dean. Even as an associate dean, you don't interact with the staff. That was a joy to do that. And it was, I was trying to present information to the staff about what was going on without, being depressing, being honest without being depressing. And therefore keeping morale up. Ironically, Michael invoked his dad. My dad was a morale officer in World War II. And I drew on, he had long since been deceased, but I drew on, honestly, stories he told about how to keep morale up. And I did that. It helped to work with Brian Kavitek, who is one of the most positive, high-energy people on earth, and a key person at Loyola, and a key person I was around all the time with Tom Huang, who's equally high energy and positive. All those positive things. I want to draw on something that that I've never told this story before, and I will not violate any confidences. But looking back on it, one of the most positive interactions I had was in Washington, D.C. at the Burcham Park Hotel, meeting with Michael Waterstone when I was the interim dean, intending only to be an interim dean, of course. And we talked about his becoming dean. And I was a big supporter of his, which I could not say during the dean's search. But I too thought Michael Waterstone would make a fantastic dean. And at that time, he was interested in it. We met just casually in the hotel lobby in one of those aside rooms of that Burcham Park Hotel. We've been in a million times. And we just talked about what he had as his vision as dean, what I had perceived the challenges to be. And I look back on that now with a lot of satisfaction that you know, maybe, you know, I helped a little bit. So.
Oh, man. Well, like everybody said, as dean, you get to see some things that you'll never forget, like in a bad way. But you get to see some beautiful moments that people don't get to see, that the staff member who will cover for somebody else because they're going through something, the faculty member that when someone gets sick, volunteers to teach a double or triple load or section, the way the students have each other's backs. I mean, you get to see these really amazing things. Just to answer the question, for me, it actually wouldn't be a faculty, staff, alumni, or student. It was a client of one of the clinics. So I was in my office and I got the knock, 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 and the folks from the Project for the Innocent came in, and I got to meet Mr. Andrew Wilson, who had been in jail an hour before for 32 years for a crime that he didn't commit. He was the happiest, most upbeat human being I've ever met in my life. He was surrounded by his team of student lawyers, who are our students, that had worked on his behalf to free him, and he was wearing a Loyola t-shirt. And he's thanking me, and I remember thinking, I'm the only one in this room that didn't work on your case. But that was a good day, and that will stay with me the rest of my life.
So time has let me know I have one more question, time for one more question. I would like to make this last question one about the future, right? So drawing on your experience, what you've seen, how you've seen things evolve. You are the folks who've probably given the most thought of anybody to what the school is, what it can be, how it can change, how it should change. So I want you to finish this sentence. I wish that Loyola, what is it that you wish to see for Loyola, or to do, or to kind of do differently, or to embrace?
You're looking at me, so
I'm looking at you.
the subtle calling on a student. Look right at somebody.
You're the only one who didn't look away from me, so that's it.
Well, we got a preview of this question, and it's the only question that was previewed that I didn't really know the answer to. I don't know where legal education is going to go. I think those of you who are younger than 40 in the room have experienced such rapid technological changes that you expect that. For those of us, I'm 63, this has been quite an interesting ride for the past 15 years in terms of the rapid changes, and it's affected every place, including law schools. So I don't know what law schools generally are going to look like in the future. I do think Loyola's niche that I think I would like to see Loyola continue and strengthen is public service, service to others. That is where we distinguish ourselves. That's where we will continue to distinguish ourselves. And whatever subsequent deans do, because I know Michael certainly already committed to that, we have to make sure that's the focus, because that's who we are. That's who we should always be, and I think that's who will be, if we're successful 100 years from now, if we exist. That's what we'll continue to be known for.
Dave,
That's a really tough question, but let me start by saying an institution like Loyola, if you think about it, is really just a constellation of many, many thousands, if not millions, of human relationships. I've done the combinations, permutations, it's probably a million relationships. Student to student, student to faculty, staff to student, student to staff, et cetera, et cetera. The practice of law is similar. It's about relationships. And however, and so what I would like Loyola to become, or to be, is really trying to emphasize and to capitalize on what it's been good at for 100 years. And that is a positive learning environment with committed and gifted teachers and motivated students who, by and large, have a love of learning for the purpose of helping others solve problems. That's what lawyers do, problem solvers. And the delivery system, how we're going to do that, is very much up in the air. And like Paul, I don't have an idea. But whatever it is, I hope we don't lose sight of the fact that it's the relationships. It's the relationships among people that matter the most. And it's what makes a nice place to work, a nice place to go to school, whether it's physical or virtual. It is that environment that's nurturing, that gives us a reason to live, and gives us a reason to pursue what I think is one of the great and noble professions of all time, and that's being a lawyer.
Judge Howard?
After listening carefully to everything that has been said up to now, and with an eye on a concept that Dean mentioned, Lauer J. concurs in all that you have heard.
Well, I think we're all pretty much in agreement. But I put it this way, that I would want Loyola to be true to itself, to not try to be a Harvard or a UCLA or a USC, but be the best Loyola it could be. And that means public service. It means treating people well. It means, among other things, specifically, in the future, I would like to see the optics of this stage change a little bit. I would like someone sitting up here other than these oldish white men with great hair. All of them have great hair. You know, Loyola, among other things, is a diverse community. It is the Los Angeles Law School. And it's time that we reflect Los Angeles upstairs in the Dean's Suite. So someday soon, after another 10 or 20 years, we might be we will have a dean who helps us in that regard.
You know, Tom, I was dean for 2 weeks. I should have Okay, last but not least, Michael. Finish the sentence. I wish Loyola.
You guys hear me say this stuff all the time, so. I agree with Victor that the white guy club is, you know, we're all white guys, that's got to change. That moving forward, there needs to be leadership that's more representative of the community that we live in and serve. So I think, I'm glad Victor said that, and I think it's crucially important, and I think it needs to be acknowledged. It can't continue to be white dudes. I agree with everything my colleagues and friends have said. You know, the great legal philosopher Yogi Berra once said, it's hard to predict the future because it hasn't happened yet. But I think whatever the future brings, our place in that future is keeping our core and our values. Social justice, teaching, empathy. And I think the world as I see it needs more of those things, not less of those things. But also realizing that the existing structures that we've built to deliver and use those things aren't going to look the same in the next 100 years. And positioning ourselves boldly to make brave decisions and say that we are going to embrace things that we haven't embraced. We're going to make some bets. Some will be terrible, some will be great. But we are going to keep innovating because none of us have the benefit of standing still.
So, oh, yes.
I would be remiss at this point, given the discussion about the white guys, not bring to your attention, for the 6 years that I served as dean, one of the associate deans is an alumnus of this law school, Ola Compton. And she did a wonderful job. And I was surprised. She always attends these gatherings, and I was really surprised that she wasn't here today. But it deserves mention that she did a terrific job. She was the first African-American woman in a number of different places doing different things. And I want this to end without focusing on her.
So I know we're going to have to wrap up very soon because we have a photo op waiting that we're going to need you all to help with. So don't run off. But first, we just wanted to give an opportunity for any questions if you do have them. Or if we were just brilliant in how we did this and we answered them all. Okay, I like that. We were brilliant. We did it. Okay, so now I have to announce something. Tom's going to make sure I don't screw this up. I'm supposed to invite everybody, but then I was told make sure everybody goes. That's a wait list. Make sure you go to the rooftop, please, of our parking structure for a drone aerial group photograph. And so we're trying to take it in the shape of a 100, so we need lots of people. If you have your t-shirts, make sure you put yours on. I brought mine. And what else? People will help you. Oh, take the stairs if you can, because we only have like 2 elevators and they're really slow. And plus, you need to get your steps in. Like most of you have Fitbits, use them. Okay. So photo now. Take the stairs if you can, and then after we're gonna have cake. But you're only allowed to get cake if you take the stairs. So stairs, take the photograph, and we'll come back and do cake somewhere. Is the cake up there? The cake is up there.